Have clicked onto the Global Tropical Overview for May the 25th, 2023. As is always the case in these videos, the thoughts expressed here are mine alone, and if you're looking for local information to you ahead of any tropical cyclone, look towards your local weather office and official tropical cyclone warning center. So today we're really just going to focus on Typhoon Mawar, as we'll probably be focusing on for the next week, and it has changed quite a bit in the past 48 hours since my last video. You'll notice that the system has now moved through the Mariana Islands very slowly. I think at one point east of Guam was moving like 5 miles per hour. Now the system was still really strong when it came through the Mariana Islands. It was about 130 to 140 mile per hour winds when it came through. And we saw loads of videos out of Guam of those strong winds, and I hope everything is all right there and we can get a speedy recovery underway after the storm. But now the system is moving westwards, and yesterday, before it came into Guam, it went through what is called an eye wall replacement cycle, where you'll have the inner eye wall, and I can show microwave imagery to show you what I'm talking about here with the inner eye wall. You can see this ring here, right outside of the eye, would be the inner eye wall. And what you would get is some banding like we have here in this microwave pass. Some of that banding can try to wrap around completely around the inner core, and through that process, eventually, if it does manage to get fully wrapped around the inner core, that inner eye wall will essentially dissipate away, and that outer eye wall, that new ring of thunderstorms, will contract into a new eye. Typically, these processes take about a day, and that was about how long it took for Mawar here. Now, just to make clear, this is not an eye wall replacement cycle taking place here on this pass. This is after the eye wall replacement cycle, and I guess I can go ahead and talk about this. This is a microwave pass that we got earlier today as the system was past Guam, and you can see that the system had been struggling a little bit. We had weakness in the northern eye wall, but other than that, the eye wall looked pretty good. Now, we did get a new microwave pass just a little bit ago showing that that northern eye wall has been fixed. And let me go to a zoomed in satellite view too. This system is looking really healthy, and this system may be underway to reaching a higher peak intensity now, like it did a couple of days ago when it was east of Guam. And you can see similar things that I pointed out in that last video that I did. You have these rotating thunderstorms around this inner core. And you can also see at times the inner core is trying to clear out. And here's the visible satellite as the sun rises. You can also see those thunderstorms in the overshooting tops here as they wrap around that inner core. Now, the good news is for the Mariana Islands, the typhoon force winds have really moved away. But unfortunately, you'll have to deal with a lot of cloudiness and rain and tropical storm force winds for at least, I'd say, the next 12 to 24 hours. I'll show you here. Here's the forecast cone from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center to show you the wind field. We'll come back to this at the end of the video. You can see this large wind field here stretching well east of the Mariana Islands. And even in areas such as Tinian and Saipan, and even points further north, you could still be seeing some tropical storm force winds here as this system tracks east. That's another effect of an eye wall replacement cycle. These systems get larger, and that is not really a good thing, especially when you have a system making landfall, or at least getting close to a landfall like Mawar did. With a larger system, you can get more and higher storm surge on land areas. Now let's go and talk about the future of this. I guess I can talk about this cone while we're at it. You can see the forecast here is pretty similar to what we had a couple days ago, showing the storm generally coming westwards here and staying strong. That's a super typhoon for at least the next 3 days, as the environment is going to be extremely favorable for the storm. And then we see some weakening as the system comes by the Philippines and maybe tries to recurve near Taiwan or the southern Japanese islands. Though there is still a lot of uncertainty here. And you notice how large the spread is here of potential tracks of where the system could go. And we have multiple different solutions on how the system could track. For example, the European model is on the southern end of this. It brings this very close to Luzon, and I'll show you that model run. In fact, we can go to models right now. Here's the GFS for track. And you can see as the system comes westwards, there's that subtropical ridge placed over Japan and South Korea, as we have talked about for days now. And eventually, what happens is this ridge starts to break down due to a trough digging down. And you can see by day 5, for example, the system on the GFS looks to be maybe a bit east of the day 5 point on this cone. But if we go to the European model, let me go to the actual that I was showing on the GFS, you can see the same kind of picture. That ridge builds in near Japan and South Korea. But the system is a little bit further south, and look how close it gets to Luzon. And the effects of this are the system, of course, gets closer to Luzon, and we could potentially be seeing typhoon impacts there. But alongside that, this system is now pretty far south, and it's also still trapped a bit underneath this ridge with this trough digging in. Now, eventually this trough does dig in enough to where it's able to erode the eastern fringe of the ridge enough to pull this system out. But the unfortunate thing, if the European solution were to verify, is that that trough is quickly escaping towards the north. And what happens on the models, we have this ridge building in again, and the system now gets trapped underneath it, and then it tracks generally towards the southern Japanese islands, being trapped under that ridge now. Now, exact details on how that exact pattern may evolve, it's hard to tell. This is over 7 days out here. This is June the 1st. This I think would be June the 2nd local time. So there's a lot of time here still. And I know it may seem like we have 5 days left until this actual system gets westwards, and that's true. But the long-term forecast of where this system will exactly go, how will it evolve with that trough, still a lot uncertain. Here's the GFS for comparison. You'll notice on the GFS, it's not at Luzon. It's much further towards the northeast here, east of Taiwan. So in this case, on the GFS, this trough comes in and erodes the ridge, and the system is far north enough that this trough is able to pick it up, and Mawar just goes up with the trough and slams into Japan as what looks to be a non-tropical system, or at least transitioning into a non-tropical system there. But you can see the different scenarios here. I'll go to the same frame that I was on the European. We have on the GFS the storm here by Japan, and on the European, the system is here east of Taiwan, where the GFS has it at day 5. There's a bit of a spread here, and it's really the only way we're going to be able to tell exactly what the system's going to do is just watching it. And of course, there may be some implications of perhaps ridge strength or trough strength, or even Mawar's strength itself, that impacts how far north or how far south it goes. And as well, there's just a natural area that we have in forecasts of an average error of an area where the system center could be. Now, another important note here that I always bring up with these cones is these are impact cones, these are track cones, not impact cones. So while the system here may still track north of Luzon on the forecast, take a look at that wind field, and keep in mind that this system could easily go under several eyeball replacement cycles on its way towards the west, which means the system could get pretty large by the time it's over here in the Philippines. So despite the track perhaps being offshore, you may still have to plan for some impacts in Luzon and in Taiwan and in the southern Japanese islands. So there's a lot still to iron out. The good news is for areas further west, we have time. You have time to watch the system, and of course, now is the time to really make sure that your typhoon preparedness kit is ready, just in case the storm does come through. And just wanted to show as well the environment that the system's going to be in. You notice that the Joint Typhoon Warning Center are forecasting this to be a super typhoon for the next 3 days. And this environment is very, very favorable. Here's the GFS. I can get a sounding here over the system, and notice how much moisture there is aloft. It's a very moist profile, and look at the shear overall. 4 knots of shear is not much, and alongside the sea surface temperatures, which are also deep, They're not just warm at the surface, they're also warm very deep down into the ocean. All these implications of the shear and the relative humidity and the oceanic conditions alongside good divergence aloft, where you have winds that are able to go away, expand away from the storm aloft on both equatorward and poleward outflow channels. That just sets a stage for what could be an extreme storm. Now, thankfully, it is likely to weaken a little bit. Something that may happen if it does go through a lot of eyewall replacement cycles is that the system may get so large that it may start to churn up colder water before the actual core gets there. You can get to a point with these storms to where they get too big for their own good, to where the storms ahead of the eye may be able to churn up some colder water, and by the time the eye gets there, the waters are much cooler, not as deep, and that could cause some weakening to take place. Alongside that, as you go further north, especially in May, the sea surface temperatures do start to decrease here as you go further north. But either way, the system is looking to be significant. And again, key messages for those in Japan and Taiwan and the Philippines: make sure your typhoon preparedness kit is ready to go just in case you do have to enact it for this storm. And just pay very close attention to this and stay tuned to local weather offices and the Japan Meteorological Agency. They're going to have the best information ahead of this. But that is everything for today. I will have further updates on Mawar, and I may as well dive into the potential system off the east coast of the U.S. If it is warranted, but the main focus this week and next week is going to be Mawar. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.